Hello everyone, Kraken here. Today we are going to examine why I got stuck in Lustria for 80 turns in my head-to-head with Killspree. And I did bend the knee and concede that campaign. Usually I wait for my cities to burn, but he was real far away, and it was pretty decided that he was going to reign supreme in that campaign. Tolrox was angling to start a killing frenzy that would have spanned multiple continents. It would definitely not have stopped in Lustria. Had I chose to really pursue him in his fight with Nakai, it could have gone different. But my campaign, in any case, was doomed to be locked in this little corner for maybe another 40 turns. I might not have ever gotten out. So, I spent some time exploring, looking at some of Legend of Total War's videos, shout out to him, and tinkering with SFO and figuring out what exactly it is I need to do, because the garrisons are different, the game is different, I need to figure out these sequences. Now, whenever I do these things, I try to understand that if you can pushing over the AI is one thing, but if an enemy player is piloting the faction, it's a much different story, right? Like, he's going to force you to fight battles that you might have wanted to auto-resolve, right? So I'm going to show you two different examples of how you could do it, right? How to conquer the start position. Now, first things first. You don't need this caster down here. You could send him up immediately. You don't have to do this, but this is typically what I like to do. Because after scouting the cursed jungle, which will give him a free level, you can see what's going on up above. Because the AI is not going to act the same way every game. The court of Liberis might come down southwards, or the whoever these guys are, the vampires might swing over or go up. You want to know what's going on over there, right? So you could put him in, but it's not required. And so because it's not required, we're just going to run at this guy. He goes into the corner. Decisive victory, easy auto resolve. You could just go with, I would just grab research right here. It's a pretty obvious choice. And he's basically stuck, right? For this start, you could start Kroq-gar really any way you want. But I'm going to prioritize Blue Tree because, like, in the beginning, his army is it's like a mixed bag, right? You could start putting points into Hunt Leader and Beast Driver, but you only have one Connoisseur, you only have one Stegodon. So I think going for leadership stuff is my preferred, but I'm going to start with Route Marcher. Okay, and I'm going to grab Inspiring Presence. And for my start here, it's all about killing Teotihuacan, and that's the first trap, right? So, in fact, I was quite used to my dynamic with Teotihuacan in vanilla. And usually I would just run him over with a Saurus stack, right? Because Kroq-gar gets cheaper Sauruses. But here, I still think it's the case that you get cheaper Sauruses. Let me double check that. You do. I think it's 50% in standard. I'd have to double check. But in any case, this upkeep reduction is not enough for Sauruses in the current build of the game. For SFO. It's not going to work. They take way too long to recruit. You're not going to get your feet off the ground early enough. You might as well just run with skinks. And that's what I'm going to explore here today, right? So, research, I prioritize the skink stuff. It's going to take you 23 turns to get all that good stuff. And then, I got this from Legend of Total War. Recruit a hero. We're going to go with the Kroq-gar because he's the most monstrous, right? Let's see. We're going to do... Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, we're going to get the Tactician. And we're going to grab 3 skinks. Now, I grabbed the Sword and Board because they have a bit better combat stats, right? That's going to make them more survivable, and you only need them for one fight. Alright, pass the turn. So, our intent is to kind of swing Kroq-gar up and take our Kroq-gar agent and attack the Serpent Coast. This will give us a strong tempo play on the Skaven who will be recruiting from their settlement in a moment. Alright, so I would march, but you shouldn't. Use move and recruit. Like so. More sword and board skinks. We're going to march him just to make sure we get there. He's going to take a look at the cursed jungle. 100% success chance. And what do you know? There's some Skaven here. And they have a garrison, right? But they're all just rats. Easy to push over, especially with Kroq-gar. So, considering your starting enemies are Tomb Kings, Vampires, and the Skaven, prioritizing Wind Blast is really potent. If you're really concerned about the fight with Teotihuacan, you could go Curse the Midnight Wind, which I think is more potent against the sources. I think they have low armor too, though. It's like 40 or 60 in SFO. It's 40. So you could, like, the Wind Blast will still work on sources, but I think Curse the Midnight Wind will be better against his front line. Alright, so he's recruiting and he's moving past the turn. I just want to show you this first sequence, and then I'm going to load a few saves that I've prepared. Basically showing what you can do after you kill the rats. Alright. So, actually, here's an important step. So we have the 50 alignment, and when you click on the Vengeance of Zotl, you can take on missions. It takes 50 alignment to activate, but these give you 5,000 gold for completing them, and usually they involve killing. So capture 750 battle captives. We get 500 XP for all of our characters. We get the Lash of Zaka, which has a bunch of nice benefits. You end up collecting these throughout the course of your campaign as Kroq-gar, and you live long and prosper. So he goes here. Oh, what do you know, Skaven? So a Skaven general would be hard pressed to win this if you play it correctly. They're just clan rats, and you just sit there with you sit your Kroq-gar agent on top of your skinks, and the rat should tear out. But you can just auto this. Now, if you're really, really concerned about this fight, you could pass units over to him from Kroq-gar. It's going to cost you a little bit more if you do that, but it would be worth it to secure this fight. Now, what I do immediately is I disband him. He's costing us 657 gold a turn, right? His usefulness has been used. We will upgrade that for more money because we will need it. And we get more sword and board skinks. And you have one turn to look up here. Alright, it is still a ruins, which is likely the case, but you never know. But you never know. Alright, the turn has passed. And faction-wide caps, that's the standard way to play. We're just going to inch up to the edge of the territory, just right here. And as you can see, we got some rats poising to battle us. And I prefer getting the cold ones at the very end. You wait on these cold ones because they just cost more than the skinks, right? Now, also note, sources take 2 turns, right, to recruit each batch. So getting them is strong, but tempo-wise, it's really weak. So we're going to move this guy back. Now, you could do another action, right, on one of these heroes, but you're gambling the survival of this skink. There is a chance you will crit fail, and you will not have him for the fight. And I think it's critical that you have him up for the fight. You upgrade the Serpent Coast because we're looking to get more skink burials. Pass the turn. So when the turn comes around, they're going to have recruited some units. But you have enough killing power to just charge them. And since Kroq-gar has Lightning Strike, you can separate the other army there that's in support and deal with them after. Alright, we do that. I think I messed up that turn, but it's irrelevant. You pass. I don't know if you could siege and move a hero into your army, break the siege, and then go in again. I think that might have worked, but either way. Alright, so we're going to betray this guy. So you could accept or decline. It's really up to you. I don't know what sways the AI to make certain decisions, but what you're really waiting for is for him to take the golden tower for you. And that's when he's weakest. Alright, so Kroq-gar just marches up here. Now it's a Pyrrhic victory against all these rats. Your opponent might try to fight this, but that's why it's critical to have Wind Blast, right? Your big dinos should be enough to snipe his lords, and if not, they should definitely be able to tear out some of these rats, right? It would be a tenacious fight, but your leadership should hold. But in any case, Lightning Strike, right? Easy peasy. Auto resolve. You take heavy casualties, but no losses. Occupy. If you loot and occupy, you end up stuck in the settlement for like many more turns. Get an extra 5k for that. Make sure you equip your items. Let's see, where is it? Do I not have it yet? What is this? Enchanted item. Ah, there you go. Boom, boom, boom. Great. We level up Kroq-gar. We don't have Obedience's Victory or whatever that is. From here, he could pick a, whatever. Skirmisher if you're looking to get the most killing power of your skinks, but you're going to pivot away from them in the long run, so I kind of don't like investing in this tree. Ancient Cunning is great because it gives you more movement and ambush chance. Ambush is fantastic. Maximize Wind Blast. And I like tearing up the Cursed Jungle because if the Tomb Kings attack you later, you will need it. What's our public order at? It's kind of declining. It is going to stabilize, but whatever. For the purposes of this, we're just going to go with the public order one. Boom. Alright, pass the turn. And then he should attack me because he desperately wants his settlement back, but we're going to say no and snack on some rats instead. Decisive victory. You could fight this and not take these losses, but we're going to do it. Okay, cool. Kill and eat. Nom nom. Alright. So from here, you've secured your starting position. Your little corner that I'm very, very familiar with by now. And so what do you do from here, right? There's a bunch of options. But basically your goal is to kill Teotihuacan and take the Golden Tower, right? Well, how do you do that? So one way is basically to be opportunistic and take some fights up here, try to get some money, and raise a second army of skinks and attack. And I'll show you what that looks like. Let's see here. I'll load up that game. Yes. So with this method, it's very risky. I would say there's a solid chance that you'd lose the fight against a competent opponent. And that's why I produced a variant method of conquest. That takes a bit longer, but is much safer. So after this fight, you barely get out of it. And you actually have to play the fight too. You can't auto-resolve it. Alright, so as you can see on turn 14, oh, by the way, this is on hard difficulty. That's usually the difficulty I play on. Or it's normal in a head-to-head because you don't need inflated AI, um, you know, in a head-to-head campaign. It's tough enough with another player. But I would kind of like it if you could just make the campaign AI harder in head-to-heads. You know, like maybe they just summon more troops, but they don't have the buffs, you know, the troops themselves. But anyways, turn 14, we've secured Teotihuacan in the Golden Tower, and we're doing quite well for ourselves. To accomplish this, here are the remnants. I did lose the Stegodon in the battle. It was very close. Yeah, man, it was super close. But how you do this is you hire a Kroq-gar agent, and you get, I think I had like 6 to 8 skinks for the fight, and I needed them. And I disbanded them right after the battle. And that's how you do it. You just kind of bulldoze your way over. But it is possible. Alright, and you can see the buildings. I skipped on upgrading these structures for the extra like 4K to execute that strategy. And as you can see, I'm scraping at the bottom of the barrel to have made this happen. And I did not cheese the AI. I fought it as I would a player. Right? Charge the walls, bash down the gates, cast spells. And actually, the gate glitch happened multiple times too. Which really sucked, but you know, that's just the way it is. Alright, so I'll show you the alternate version. The safer version. So on turn 26, you can also take these settlements solidly. Easily. But you need to do some running around. Because I tested waiting at the edge. Like, I sat in ambush for like, I think till turn 25 in one playthrough. To see if Teotihuacan would take the Golden Tower. And he doesn't. I think something about his AI prefers if your forces are away fighting people. I'm not sure what triggers his behavior, but after I started fighting up north against Khalida and the vampires, he started to be more active. So even though he's super friends with you, as you can see, boom, I've taken them. And I have a full army of skinky boys here. And Kroq-gar with more skinks. And, you know, it's just a matter of, like, meat, right? Like, sometimes if you have enough troops, you can brute force these battles. Actually, oftentimes, I think having a secondary army of chaff is super potent. Especially if you can force your enemy to have to dock all of the walls. Because if he has to do that, then his forces are spread. And, you know, you can like threaten all the angles because the win condition of a settlement battle is taking the capture point, right? So we can't let anyone slip by. So anyways, what we did was we went up north and we battled these guys, right? We looted and you like loot and capture a couple of times, right? For the replenishment of money. I should have raised these places. But at the end of the day, the consequence of that was weakening the vampires and Khalida took over. The big issue is Lamia. Now, I haven't played enough to, you know, kind of figure out how to crack that code, right? And I don't, from this position, I think it's pretty easy. You will get tons of money from the Golden Tower if you're able to defend all this stuff. And defending these settlements is not as hard as it looks either once you solve for your money situation. Like, you already have a second army, right? You could trim a little bit to save. I'll do that right now. See, already you're at 300, so you have plenty of time, right, if you want to sit and develop, right? And all you'd have to do is basically take your lords and set them to astromancy, which will tell you way ahead of time if someone wants to spring an attack on you, or you can send your hero. The Blue Vipers ended up here. I declared war on them because I thought I could attack him when he slipped away from me, you know, as orcs do and underway. But that's not a guaranteed thing to happen, and, you know, worst case scenario is he takes the Golden Tower and blah, 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 but you just chase him back and you get some XP, right? It's not that big of a deal. As you can see in this playthrough, my development's pretty good. I gun for the skink barrios because I'm just after pumping out extra skinks, right? Getting that second army up and running. Yeah, but eventually the big teal lizard, or cyan or whatever, takes the golden tower. And then you can smack him and then take Teotihuacan. Super easy. So it's all about just, playing safe, using your hero to scout in this area, because it is kind of dicey, right? And taking your fights with Liberis very tactfully. Don't force anything. As long as Teotihuacan has taken the golden tower, you've completed your objective, right? You're just here for freebies. Now, I had a moment, I would be remiss if I didn't say that I did have a moment where I was marching back and I was intercepted by one of the by one of the armies of Khalida, and it was a close one because I was marched and she kind of caught me. You just got to be careful, but you can execute this probably better than I did, right? And you could live long and prosper as well. And so yeah, from here, again, you just build up that golden tower. Let's see. Let's look at that building browser. Extra 400 gold and 25% from all regions in the province, and 25% from all regions in adjacent provinces. So with this, you're gonna be booming pretty quick. You're gonna be doing a lot better than I was. Cause the thing is, the biggest trap is you start with 100 diplomacy with Teotihuacan, and I thought for sure that was gonna be it. I was like, oh, well, I can play friendly with him, I can confederate, and then I can just kind of do my thing, right? Not the case at all. This guy is not gonna confederate with you. I'll be posting one of Tariff's videos in the description of basically what diplomacy with Lisbon is like. It's hellish, and you saw that firsthand in my playthrough, my head-to-head. So against Lamia, I think from here I would pivot to sources. It would take a while, and it's definitely worth switching to the alignment of war to recruit extra troops. Don't sleep on that, right? When you're recruiting sources at 2 a turn, getting the extra one's important. So I'd switch to sources because they kind of eat up most of the Tomb King infantry, and you have monsters to deal with, all of their big constructs, right? The Carnosaur Feral will do it. And you'll probably end up with some Blessed. I got a Blessed Stegodon this time. Pretty nice, but he is expensive. I think he's 582 upkeep. He's a lot of money. That's a lot of skinks. That's 5-6 units of skinks. So that's 6 units of skinks. So yeah, he's definitely a tough buy, but since I was kind of compromised, I recruited him anyways. And he kind of pulled through for me. So, after you deal with her, what do you do from here? Well, I think the best move would be to try to deal with Malice. Or I think doing your quests first would probably be the best bet, and then deal with Malice on this little island. Because there's a lot of money here too. But Malice is a pain in the ass to deal with. I was able to beat him a couple times in that head-to-head. But atrociously every time. And the AI, I think, defaults to his demonic form, in campaigns, so he always has that 40% ward save. Jeez, he is tough. There's no easy solution that I can see. There's no easy solution. I think squaring away Lamia is best. Trying to hold that territory. Build up until you get maybe 3 armies, or a really good semi-doom stack with Kroq-gar, and then take on Malice, maybe when you have Grimlock, I don't think taking this stuff isn't necessary. I think the dwarves and the orcs will be kind of dealing with them for you, and crossing this gap is hard, right? There's a bunch of mountainous terrain, and the only way they could land is through this coast, and right from the capital. If you're really concerned, you could always use the Astromancy stance to see what's coming, or good hero play can help prevent you from being ambushed. But basically, after you deal with Khalida, going westward is super simple, right? Because you've killed rats before, you've killed Tomb Kings before. Usually you have a composition who could deal with it, and everyone in Kroq-gar's army gets Lightning Strike in SFO. So the infinite armies of Tomb Kings should not trouble you. Alright, well, I hope that this has helped you guys, because I don't want you to end up in the position that I was in, 80 turns, stuck in this corner. I think there's only one other time I've been like stuck like that, and that's when I played Arkin the Black, and his campaign is hard, especially in head-to-head. In SFO 2, like the garrisons are no joke, and when you're fighting Tomb King on Tomb King, and the enemy's got Kemrian War Sphinxes, and oh yeah, the Screaming Skull catapults are super deadly in this game too. It's rough stuff. But anyways, I hope you learned. I certainly did, and look forward to more games in the future. This is Craft Kraken signing off.